Hi, I'm Clovis Casali in Paris. Time for Culture on France 24. ENCORE starts now. Her book, The Inheritance of Loss, earned her the Man Booker Prize in 2006. Kiran Desai is our guest today. Barely 20 or so and already critically acclaimed authors will bring you two new French talents. And Djerba turned into an open-air museum. Street art has taken over Tunisia's seaside town. Kiran Desai, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're currently in Paris for a literary festival with writers from all over the world. Can you tell me more about it?
This is a festival of Indian writing in particular this time. And I think the effort was to there was a concern that Indian writing wasn't known enough in France. And I think this was an effort to try and involve the French public much more in a diverse field of Indian writing. There's some writers from the States, some from India. I myself speak tomorrow at
and
the
you'll get to meet
Auditorium.
the public, get to talk about your writing with the public?
I hope so, yes. I've been to one session already and it was exactly like that, talking of feminist literature in India. And there was a crowd of people and very wonderful conversation.
And you were just 25 when you published your first novel,
yes.
Praised by famous authors such as Salman Rushdie. Same for your second, The Inheritance of Loss, where you just mentioned before, that earned you the Man Booker Prize. How did you deal with fame and success so early on in your career?
Well, I was lucky, but I'm also a very slow writer. And my second book, after the first one, took me almost a decade. I did all the hard work of becoming a writer the second time around. My third book that I'm working on now will also take me about 7 or 8 years. So the self-consciousness vanishes. It just becomes you on your own with your book for years on end. So that's how I've undone the anxiety.
Can you tell me briefly what this new book is about?
It is about the loneliness of the globalized world and the differences between Eastern and Western notions of solitariness, all seen through a comic lens of a failed romance.
Okay. Well, we just said that you started very early, got success early on in your career. Let's take a look now at two young French authors who've risen to fame at the age of 19 and 21. Édouard Louis and Baptiste Rossi represent a new generation of writers who make cutting statements on modern society. Their novels delve into homosexuality and celebrity culture. Catherine Clifford has more.
This 21-year-old's taken the French literary scene by storm this year, but he's not keen to pose for the cameras. His first novel, Coming to Terms with Eddie Bellegueule, stirred up controversial debate across the country. It's the autobiographical tale of a gay teenager growing up in a harsh rural and working-class environment.
A lot of people tell me they've lived through the same experience, that they were the excluded gay, Arab, Jewish, black or fat kid. I was trying to show how society functions by these permanent exclusive divisions. My aim was very political.
He may have intended to stir debate, but Édouard Louis is uncomfortable with his new celebrity status. A theme seized upon by another young author. Baptiste Rossi's novel Kevin's Real Life explores the ugly side of celebrity culture. Starring in a reality TV show, teenage protagonist Kevin finds himself at the ruthless mercy of his producer, carrying out orders texted in by viewers. It's a satire written in just 2 months.
A novel is just 2 good ideas, a few jokes and a jumble of letters. No, it's definitely not complicated. I really enjoyed the process.
For critics, it's not the two emerging authors' young age that makes them exceptional, but rather their original style and voice.
These are 2 books whose style can appeal to anyone. One uses texts, emails, electronics, all that sort of thing, and in the other, Édouard Louis' novel, the language is very open, direct, strong, even violent. typical language in the Picardy region. So it's a bit of a surprising mix, and the result is something interesting and at the same time astonishing.
Baptiste admits he fears one day his plotline will come true. At 19 years old, he's now working on his second novel. Edouard Louis says he believes literature is a means of asking the questions which aren't being tackled in the political sphere, suggesting a second novel likely to ruffle yet more feathers.
Kiran Desai, are there any French authors you enjoy reading or who might have influenced your work?
You know, it's a funny question because, of course, I grew up, you know how you're linked to, you have a colonial link and you grew up reading that literature. So, of course, I grew up reading Dickens and Jane Austen. And then moving to the States, I endlessly read American literature. So France has always been so sad, a little on the periphery. That should change. But, of course, I have read Proust, Camus, Flaubert. And
The classics.
The classics.
You were born in India. You moved to the United States when you were a teenager. Two countries with very different cultures. How does that combination enrich your work?
It's allowed me to write from a huge landscape, but I also think it made me a writer. I was so conscious of my intelligence existing in pieces. Also my emotional intelligence existing in pieces, because you really feel the worlds are so different. If India exists on this planet, then the United States cannot exist. It seems that far apart, as if they would cancel each other out. So writing became a way of piecing it together, of making my intelligence whole.
And decolonization is a theme that you write about a lot. It's often said that England, with India, managed to leave India in a rather peaceful manner, that the transition was rather smooth, as opposed to France, for instance, with the Algerian War, the bloody conflict. Do you agree with that?
You know, I love this conversation because it's such a funny one when people are discussing who was the worst colonial master. The Dutch were the worst ones, the British were the better ones, or the French. So but I think in India people would not really agree with that because the British may consider that to be true. But we always think that, well, the British are very bad at drawing borders. You know, they come from an island. That's the joke, is that they're island nation and they were not very good at drawing borders. And so, of course, we all remember the hell of partition. And both borders remain contested. So we still
Talking
suffer
about
the
Kashmir, of course.
of Kashmir on one side, but also the border with on the other side with China, Tibet, Nepal, and so both the eastern and western borders. So we continue to have, suffer the after effects.
We were talking about the mix of cultures, of origins. Well, one Franco-Tunisian gallery owner has decided to go back to his roots, inviting artists from around the world to join him for an event called Djerba Hood. It's all about street art, with dozens decorating the walls of Iriad, a village in the idyllic island of Djerba. From calligraphy to installations, 250 works are on display. Nicola Hebden takes us on a tour.
On the island of dreams, far from its world-famous beaches, a colourful visitor is transforming one town. On the walls of schools, the town hall and even cemeteries, this Tunisian Medina has become a street art museum. 100 artists from all over the world have been invited to take part in the art project Djerba Hood to show the country in a different light.
They're using quite a few artists that are receptive to the culture, or at least sympathetic to the aesthetic principles of it, you know. And so you have people coming in, opening up a dialogue with the community, as opposed to coming in and putting their stamp on something that doesn't really have anything to do with the community.
It's not the first time the company behind this has been pushing boundaries. Gallery Iterance masterminded the famous Paris 13 project last year and transformed a derelict building into a massive work of art. Here in Tunisia, organizer Ben Sheikh aims to consolidate the city's multicultural history.
Mon seul objectif, c'était vraiment de donner déjà au street art.
My only goal was to support street art.
Essayer de faire un nouvel exercice.
To try to make something new, with a collaboration of artists, so they appreciate the architecture and the domes.
Juste qu'ils se fassent plaisir quoi, avec une nouvelle architecture, des coupoles, des
I know that's
voûtes,
very pretentious of me.
et
We're also
déjà
trying to
ça.
talk about
Et
Tunisia in another way.
Ouais, essayer de parler de la Tunisie d'une autre manière.
Already the works have changed the city, both aesthetically and economically. Iriad is best known for its position on the road to Griba, the oldest synagogue in Africa. Now street art fans are bringing extra business too.
With regard to the season this year, it's been really good. The paintings have brought trade, tourists and new faces, people we didn't see before in Iriad. What's interesting is that the paintings are well dispersed and not concentrated on a single street.
With murals everywhere, one of the oldest villages in Tunisia has become host to one of the biggest meetings on the modern street art scene.
You've been living in Brooklyn for many years, and it's one of the birthplaces of street art. Do you still feel that Brooklyn and New York is a place of intense creativity, and that the authorities are doing enough to encourage artists there?
No, they're doing enough to encourage bankers there. I think a lot of artists feel as if the city has changed, and that the arts are, while New York is a place of vibrant artistic life, a lot of artists are being priced out of these neighborhoods, and writers are often having to leave neighborhoods, which is it's really a tragedy. They're putting up big glass condominiums that cost millions of dollars. The city is being transformed.
Well, Kiran Desai, it was nice talking to you. You are taking part in this festival, this World Writers Festival in Paris. Thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to check out our website and our social networks. See you soon. More news coming up on France 24.